This is land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we live and work in Mi'kmaq as a steward of the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. Okay, we're looking for the approval of the agenda and order of business. Moved by Warden Weber, second by Councillor Church. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. And we're looking for the approval of the minutes from July 24th for the draft and policy strategy session. Someone ready to move by Councillor Coolin, seconded by Councillor Bremner. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. So now we're going to move on to the presentations and discussion topics, which I guess that's Scott, or potential changes to the Kaiser Motors. Yeah, Kaiser Motors is shut down. Kaiser Motors tipping fees. Scott, you hit the floor.
I guess you're already tipping our future business line. I'm having an okay moment, so. Thank you for it. So the objective for this discussion is basically just to gather some feedback from council on potential changes to the tipping fees charged at Kaiser Meadow. I think we'll just run through a bit of a strategic priority lens to serve what's some of the considerations going through that sort of leading to this sort of discussion, then just sort of go through some of the items we found during the review to this point, and also just to discuss to come back to some of the previous discussion on the exemptions for not-for-profits. So looking through the council's strategic priorities, so looking at priorities of driving a sort of sustainable infrastructure. So obviously Kaiser has generally been a self-sufficient business unit with taxpayers benefiting through, I think what's sort of been loosely dubbed a dividend, but also sort of other indirect benefits of having the facility, and also the control. Also looking for, also on the planning side for long-term funding, the tip fees that have been charged now haven't changed in 5 years. So they're definitely due for a change in that, and there's some other issues we'll highlight in a couple moments as well. And also just to ensuring that we have the flexibility to make investments to keep pace with the planned growth within the community, and also within the broader service area of Kaiser Meadow, because it's not just simply the district, but we have a fairly wide customer base beyond just Lunenburg County. So, and that obviously as well through the good governance and corporate excellence part, again, is to serve the self-sufficiency, and also on the decision making, it's just trying to get to a point where more clear, predictable mechanism for adjusting tipping fees going forward, because that would benefit not only us, but also just all of our customers that they're with that. And ensuring on the operational side, just ensuring the flexibility to keep evolving our operations with the community and regulatory demands that are ever changing. So with that very quick run through of those, we'll just go through a quick review of a couple of key items that have been highlighted. The first one, and particularly from a policy perspective, certainly one to flag for council, is that we have two conflicting fee schedules that are out there right now. There's one that's in the fee policy proper, Schedule A, but there's also one that sits on our website, and it's the one that's actually being used at Kaiser Meadow, and they do not match. So
this is something we just realized.
Yeah.
So we had been assuming the fee policy was the correct one, and we realized that there was another piece on the website that conflicted with that.
So with that, and the one that's on the website from April 2020 to this point, we can't find where any sort of council approval has come from for the background on that. So, and some areas we have been undercharging relative to what was actually approved in the policy. So, and also one that also includes what has been to this point essentially no charge for resident of our municipality, for example, waste loads under basically 680 kilograms or 1,500 pounds.
That's the stuff that just
Yeah, just regular materials and that, but we can't find the approval basis for where that fee, that particular exemption exists. So we've also had information from my counterparts across the province. We did a survey that has gone through our channels, but just a comparison for where our fees sit relative to the rest of the province, and we are generally a little bit below or at the minimum fee range for the relative to our peers in the province. So there's certainly some, I'd say there's certain advantages and disadvantages of being at that particular position relative to our peers. Okay, next slide.
Excuse me,
Oh, sure.
sorry. Oh, wonder what happened there. There it is. Councilor Connor.
Thank you. So just so I'm clear, the no charge for residents for residual waste loads less than 1,500 pounds per day, I guess, we cannot find any link back to when that was?
We have not been able to find
Okay.
any.
And I think it's
There was-
1,500 per load.
Yeah,
Per load, per load. Oh,
yeah.
per load, right.
So you
It's
can
not
bring
per day.
multiple- Right now,
Yeah.
you can bring multiple.
Correct,
loads.
you're
Yes.
right. It's not per load. It's per day, it's per load. You're right. So, obviously, pre my time, and that's fine, but I had always been on the understanding that that was when the Kaiser Meadow landfill was established in that area. And I'll look to the two councillors who were here, that was,
We've
that,
never charged, I don't
No,
know.
exactly.
I don't remember when or if we voted on it.
so it was part of the discussion when that was established, and that's important to me. I don't necessarily need a motion of the council at the time if that was what was discussed and with the establishment. And I think it's important. I take great pride in that, to be honest.
I'm well aware that people were allowed to bring a truckload of garbage out, but we didn't charge them if they were from the municipality of Chester. If they were from somewhere else, we did.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So just to then mention, your statement, ask about your statement around the comparison around the province. And to me, I think that's important for us to maintain, but we'll get there, of course. We'll have that discussion. And it's not so important if it's not like that elsewhere, but I'm just gonna ask you respectfully, is that the case elsewhere, that the residents in other areas have the opportunity to bring to their respective landfills a certain amount each day?
I think they have some, not as deliberate as
Not
ours.
as generous, not as generous?
Yeah, ours is, yeah.
Okay,
And some don't necessarily have that, or some will,
yep, okay,
so.
okay, thank you, thank you.
I remember that we kind of did it was as a motivating factor to, so that we didn't get as much feedback from people who, why do you have a landfill here? And well, here's why, because it makes it cheaper and easier for you to, you know. So it was an incentive to
There's certainly an advantage to encourage residents to utilize the facility as opposed to burning, throw it in the woods.
yeah, and
not really,
it was to help
which-
prevent them from,
Yeah.
taking it into the
That-
woods and that kind of stuff, yeah. Yeah, just bring it out, it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't throw it in the woods.
For municipal residents only.
Yes, only for our municipality, yeah.
So I guess with that, just some questions to pose to council in terms of how to proceed forward. I guess first one is, which one do we want to use the baseline for how we proceed from here? If we continue with the 2020, just make sure I'll say formalize it, and then proceed from there on any further adjustments, or if we go back to the 2019 as it's approved in the policy.
And the 2019, I think, is, some of the costs are higher.
Yeah, that would be the
Than
one.
what was in the 2020. So the fee policy reflects what we know was approved in 2019, and those fees are higher than what's on the fee schedule and what we've been
What are
charging.
we currently charging it, 19 or the 20?
The
2020.
The 2020, which is lower than the 2019, which we have the approvals for.
Oh, did you go back to, sorry, there's a few other ones, so.
No, what's the difference in price? I just didn't, between 19 and 20.
I don't remember.
I
the
can't-
number. I'd have to look them up.
Go back oh, sorry, no, I think there's about I would say about 15 or 20% difference.
Well, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, it would,
I'll pull them up.
depending which ones of the baselines, there are certain fees that would certainly be relative to where they're paying now, it would be a definite, a noticeable jump.
Well, I don't know, I mean, I'm assuming that our costs would have
Sorry,
gone
if
over.
we could, yes, yeah, if we could,
Yeah, you-
just for the home audience, to press your button so that we can cue.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ward.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just assumed that our costs have gone up over a 5-year period. I mean, I think we want to maintain financial stability. I guess that's the biggest deal for me. I mean, I'd like to keep us in a position where we're at the low end of the scale in terms of the cost across the province, and I think we're in a position where we can maintain that, but yeah, costs have gone up, so I mean, I don't honestly understand why we'd want to adjust them upwards somewhat. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Councillor Coolin.
And Morden Weber has answered most of my question to you in statement. By putting it and base rating it at the 2020 assessment, would it bring us up to par? Would it bring us at the base level with the rest of the province? Would it be more comparable?
We would still, well, with 2020, that's where we're at now, so we would still be under
But
or,
utilize the new okay.
yeah, it's just a matter of just how much of an adjustment we make to get, as you will, sort of caught up with the rest of the province if you, or,
Yes, okay, thank you.
Sam just informed me that if we don't pass anything to go forward, we're obliged or obligated to use the 2019 fee structure. That's what's approved.
yeah.
I have some of that. So, in the 2019 landfill waste residuals for residents, no charge less than 680 kilograms, 1,500 pounds. And the rate inside MOC is 76.27. The residual waste curbside collection with that, residential commercial for Chester is 89.06 in the fee policy. So you're almost $10 more in the 2019 than the,
Councillor Vino.
I was just wondering where a lot of our customers are bringing their waste from. For them, it's two parts. The expense is in two parts, obviously. Part of it is the tip fee, but part of it is the trucking to get it there. And, you know, if most of our customers are close by or local, then they would be willing to pay more to tip it here, obviously. So, you know, a plumber once asked me, or we were talking, and we were talking about fees for services, and maybe it's not the best quote, but I'll say it anyway. And it's not how much the service is worth, it's how much you can extract from the customer. And that's not the best quote, but the point is, I think that he was trying to make is that sometimes there's more to it than just a direct fee. It's the part of it is what's the worth is to the customer. And I feel like when we make this decision, we're kind of in a vacuum here, because I have no idea how far our customers are hauling to come to us at this point, typically. I know we have some local contract, but are we getting a lot from HRM or other places where they could go to Hants or the HRM facilities, or are they coming from down closer to Queens where, you know, at some point the business case makes sense for them to redirect their waste elsewhere? It's really difficult to understand when we just look at it based on the tipping fee by itself without considering where our customers are bringing it from.
I would say anecdotally, it's largely coming from the municipality, or with,
Our own waste.
yeah,
Our own citizens,
yeah.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
so we make them pay more so that they can make more. I don't know, then it becomes less appealing. I'd be more interested in, when we're talking about contracts outside our area, what do we want, how we want to deal with those, and those rates, and if it's mostly just taxing our own people so that they can improve their sort of quote profit or rebate on their own facility, well, it's not great business.
Warden Weber?
Yeah, it was two separate things for me. I mean, we charge a lower fee to our own citizens than we do to people who bring waste to us from outside of our municipality.
Yes, there is a price difference.
Yeah, that I
between-
think needs to remain the same. I mean, we're trying to benefit our own citizens for having the landfill in our
Yeah.
community, yeah. So I don't know what the difference should be, but there obviously should be a difference.
Yeah.
Counselor Church?
Thank you, Deputy Warden Asaph. I agree, we need to have a different level for our own residents. And we don't want to encourage people to dump it in the woods because the fee is exorbitant. I know we get quite a bit of that now. There are, woods roads along the way, and for whatever reason, people still decide to use them. I've seen it.
Go ahead.
So we want to discourage that at all cost, but there is a fee to service, so I don't think we can't be free, we have to be reasonable, but I still think we need to have a different rate for our residents. But realistically, they couldn't go anywhere else for free or, a lot cheaper, so I think we have to just maintain that. And maybe the rate for outside is up a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say most of our peers would have inside and outside
Yeah.
resident rates, so we'd certainly be well in line with what current practice is, so.
And it's often hard to determine where they're coming from. I don't know how you do that. If you ask for a civic number, it's really difficult.
Give you any.
But I don't know if you check on that or how that works, but
We do a certain amount of checking, and I think there's some,
Yeah.
and there's some customers that are fairly regular, so we have an
Yes.
idea of where they come from, yeah.
thank you.
Counselor Connors?
Thank you. So in terms of the retaining the resident exemption, second line there,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's off the table yet. I hope it's not. I know we're talking about a differential of fees between outside and inside and all that, but I'm in favor of retaining that exemption per day.
Yeah, I don't think
Good.
we're proposing
Good.
to.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
proposing,
here's
we're
a-
just discussion,
Just
right?
pointing it out that,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so in terms of discussing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
favor of keeping
Yeah.
that residential exemption,
Yeah.
so, okay.
And it sounds like maybe there's some,
Good.
there's some
Okay.
appetite for a
Yes.
differential between the residential rate and then from outside of Chester and looking at that.
So again, retaining the resident exemption for free,
Yep.
like no
Yeah.
cost, no
Up to a
cost.
certain, up to a
Good.
certain, and then over that, you,
Good.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I just want to be clear before
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
in a fog here. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Bremner?
Thank you, Deputy Warden Asaph. I'd be honest if I didn't say, I think we're all confused to some degree here and catching up on something that's been, we're 6 years since any policy was put in place. I think this needs a full package, comprehensive presentation of what we're looking at, what you feel is realistic.
yeah,
So we're not all going all over the place here, because I think we're kind of on the same page, but different ways we're thinking of it and getting lost in some of the discussions. I appreciate that we need to make sure we treat our residents well. I do agree with Councillor Connor that, keep the exemption. But after that, I get quite confused on where we're at and what we're looking at and what the difference has been since 2019 to the actual costs. And a policy that we've been using that's incorrect, that I'd like to make sure we're streamlined and we're doing it right when we end this. So
Yeah.
I'd really like to see us take all your history and knowledge, put a package together and give us the options, what it looks like. And then that way, we're not guessing on numbers and everything else. And one
yeah,
person saying,
certainly, that's our
yeah,
next
that's what I'm
step.
looking for. That's what
It's
I'd
just-
like to
That's the
see us
next
do.
step.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
just mainly wanted to highlight some key aspects before we go deep in the rabbit hole on this.
Warden Weber?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that's all he needs to know from us is we want to maintain an exemption for low volume. People bring a half-ton truckload out. or whatever the case is, and maintaining a lower rate for our own citizens than we do for others. And just tell us what the best rate is that makes financial sense and is, keeps us still relatively low compared to the
Yeah.
rest of the province.
And I think part of the discussion we had was we are assuming that we want to keep the exemption, and it
Yeah.
sounds like we do. The question I think we had was, do you want to keep it at a per day rate? Do you want it at a per load rate? Right now, you can bring unlimited number of loads
Yeah.
per day, so if you're, hauling, you live in the municipality and you run a business, you could bring multiple loads per day and be charging clients, so profiting off of that exemption.
Yeah.
So do we want to keep it at a unlimited exemption per day? Do you want one load per day at 1,500 and then everything else there's a smaller tipping fee for? So we just wanted to have a little bit of that discussion, I think. Yeah.
So I just would like to ask, is that something that the scale operator sees a lot of? Or is it?
I wouldn't say it's rampant, but certainly we see it enough. There's a
You
bit
know
of,
it, yeah.
it's
You
flagged,
notice
it's
it,
been
yeah,
flagged,
okay.
so it's,
Yeah, so we have to address that, I guess, in some way. Yeah,
yeah.
just give me a second, Tom, I'll be find you here. My eyeballs aren't what they used to be. Oh, your thing's off, sorry. Oh, sorry, Andre. Mr. Vino?
Okay, well, I've thought about this a bit in the past. So if I were doing a big clean out of my basement or whatever and I had multiple truckloads as a resident, I enjoy the benefit of being able to bring a few pickup truckloads out and not be charged. And I think I think most residents really appreciate that. And I think the typical resident isn't doing that every week. Now, there may be people who have a business whereby maybe you're elderly or whatever, and you don't have a pickup truck.
Right.
And should you be then penalized because you have to hire a kid down the street to put your garbage in the back of his pickup truck and bring it out? What's the difference to us? You know, who drives that pickup truck to the landfill? And if that kid or whoever there's maybe every weekend he goes and does a different person that needs to be cleaned out. It's not like, there's a difference between that kind of activity and crushing up a house and putting it in a dump truck and bringing it to the facility. Most of these are like property cleanup kind of things where we want to encourage that behavior. We don't want them to end up in our dangerous and unsightly lists or some sort of hoarding situation, like this is what we want. And I've always found the policy a bit weird. If I were busy and I hired out the service to go and pick up the waste, then there's suddenly when they get to the scale house, there's this big dance around to try to explain why it is that I'm not the one piloting the truck into the landfill. And it's just, I've always found that to be bizarre when it shouldn't matter. Because what we're doing is cleaning up a property, and I think that our residents really benefit from that. It's a benefit that's not common anywhere, probably, really. I'm not sure the remainder of Nova Scotia. I was in May, I was in Edmonton, and I went to their solid waste facility and took lots of photos. And we were cleaning up a property, and there was a charge of $30 or whatever for disposing of the waste, which they were used to paying. But our folks are benefited by not having that fee, and I think it's, as long as we can maintain that benefit, I think we should strive to do so. So I guess that's my feelings on it. I really don't see the difference between who brings the waste, if it's just these 2, 3, 4 truckloads, maybe at most, when you're trying to clean up a property. I don't feel like that's a big problem for us in the scope of what we dispose of, personally.
Just commercial.
Councillor Bremer?
Thank you, Deputy Warden Asif. I agree. I think if we're not careful here, we're going to ruin a real good thing that helps our residents and we'll be back into the woods burning. They'll be dumping it everywhere and burning it because, you know what? We have a lot of seniors that don't have ways of getting it, so they do hire someone to take it there. And I think that's an appropriate way to clean up. We don't want things left around. How many of those do we want to deal with? We don't want to. That's the thing, and we don't want to go back to the past. So I think be realistic about it. If it's commercial identity that's having those issues, then we have to find a way to deal with that. But if it's residential, I think it's, you know, every load they bring is a good thing for us. It saves it off the sides of a road somewhere on one of our routes that are commonly, over the years, been used for that. So, again, thank you.
Yeah, just try to differentiate between residential.
No.
Continue, Scott.
Yep, no, I think maybe just very quick, I think of the last question there, I think from the comments, I think that's been largely, that'll be a certain next one, but I think, sorry, just to come back on just how much and how quickly, I think we'd previously proposed, I think a few months ago, I think we looked at maybe a 5% to sort of, let's say, catch up. If something along that line is okay, or slower, quicker, I think try to get a feel for what council's appetite.
At the low end competitor.
No. Okay. Okay, next one. So exemption for not-for-profits. So it's a little unclear in the policy right at the moment on how exactly the mechanism can. This is sort of clause out of the fee policy on the screen. Just says the municipality can waive, but who exactly is the municipality in this case, in terms of it's not specific in who's delegated the authority to make such a waiver. There is just one instance, it's noted that where council has specifically designated the authority for recreation fees to the Director of Parks and Recreation. So that'll be one area that we'll have to come back unless council has some strong thoughts on that. And also which not-for-profit organizations do we want to make eligible for the exemption?
Councillor Bremner?
Thank you, Deputy Warden Nassif. This has been brought up in my district. Just recently, we've had one or two different organizations that have called their buildings from things that have collected over many, many years. And I think it needs to be a register that we have a list of people, that it's not a who's who or what's what. It's a clear list that the landfill has, that the scaler can check and make sure that name's on the list. If not, they have to apply to us to make sure that we know they're nonprofit, what they're doing. It shouldn't be difficult, but it hopefully will streamline that whole process. Because I know I was in favor of the organizations that were trying to clean their older buildings out, and they ran into that at the landfill, and that's where it came to the table. Thank you.
Carol?
Yeah. So the discussion we've had was around tipping fees. There is a general policy in the fee policy that we waive fees for nonprofits. The practice has been that we bring those requests to council, and council is the one who decides whether or not. We did have one several years ago where there was a request, it was not a tipping fee, it was, we've had requests for development charges and development permit fees. But we had one for waiving from a homeowners association, a road association, to waive the administration fee that we charge for the collection of the road association fees and bring that back. And so at the time, council decided to not grant that, as even though they were a nonprofit, and if we just looked and said they're a nonprofit, they qualify, they benefit just that road association, and waiving that tipping fee would then be borne, the cost of maintaining their private road would be borne by the taxpayer, so council did not grant that. So we just wanted a little bit of clarity of, are we talking about an across-the-board waiver for the tipping fees? Because most of those are coming for residents, and so they would fall under that residential exemption kind of thing, and we could just put an exemption for nonprofits in the tipping fee section, and then any other fee would come to council and/or this, and that's where we're looking for the clarity, I think, is just the tipping fee. We have an exemption for the other one. Do you want those to continue to come to council for consideration? I think that's kind of where we're looking for a little direction.
Councillor Vino?
You know, I struggle with we have a lot of policy that revolves around not-for-profit organizations. But the barrier for becoming a not-for-profit organization is not a high one. Some people equate in their mind not-for-profit organizations to charitable organizations, but they are not. Any business can be set up as a not-for-profit if you wish to do so, and get a board of directors of your friends and pay yourself high wages, and you can set up a not-for-profit and apply for grants and do all the things under the many of our frameworks. You know, maybe I might do it someday, take advantage of all those good grants. But in seriousness, I think that when we set up a lot of this policy, we think of it as what we want to exempt as charitable organizations. And if there was a way that we could distinguish between the two, I think that's really the intent of this.
And the bar for charitable is much higher. Most of our community groups would not have charitable status. A lot of them would not. Yeah, yeah. The majority, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
to
it's
me-
very high.
to me, in my view, that it should be charitable organizations and other non-for-profit, like at the pleasure of council. So if you're some other not-for-profit group and you're not on our charitable, or you're not registered as a charity, and you wish to make application, then you can apply to council to have your tip fees waived. But not every one of them is that, and I think we're capturing too many folks that, you know, are not, it's not appropriate. Frankly, that's my view on it.
Yeah, I agree, that's, because I know a situation exactly with somebody formed a nonprofit, and it was non-charitable, but it was for their advantage to buy a property. But anyway, that's another story, but I agree with Councilor Vino, if we could separate, and any special that doesn't fit the list, they can make application, absolutely, and we can decide here. Councilor Connors, sorry.
It's okay. I completely disagree. I don't think that we should limit it to charitable organizations. I think having the envelope open for nonprofits, until I see a negative, I'm in favor of continuing what we're doing to support our nonprofits. And my most direct experience would be around events, not construction materials, not cleaning out our basements as facilities and so on, but fundraisers and community events. And maybe I'm getting it mixed up, but there are times when there is a major event in our communities and they have a major amount of things that they need to bring or get picked up on terms of a special pickup. And I'm not going to speak out against that because I want to continue to support it. And to Councillor Vino's comments around possibly forming a nonprofit and coming into the fray in terms of our grants and some of the things that we sponsor, I don't know that you have to be a registered nonprofit for all of our grant programs. I know years ago you didn't have to be for a council grant, which is now an operating grant. You used to, I think the only grant was our recreation grant, and I think we actually took that off the criteria to meld it better with the other programs of council grants that we have. Maybe that may not be the case for our major project for up to 100,000, but I don't know about that. I'd have to look into that. I think we should all know that around the table, but maybe we don't. So I'm not in favor of only looking to charitable organizations and then doing it as a one-of for nonprofits in terms of the exemption. Thank you.
Councilor Vino.
Just to comment, if, for example, there were a not-for-profit group, non-charitable, that puts on events, especially annual events, say, for example, just throwing something out there off the top of my head, like the New Ross Fair. You know, I presume that those would make application to council to have a repeating exemption, you know, knowing that annually they would be holding an event. And I think I can't speak for future council, but I would expect that council would be okay with that in that situation. But, you know, that's for some future council to decide. But, you know, I always enjoy your opinions, Councillor Connors.
Councillor Connors.
Thank you. Some of the organizations and some of the events throughout the municipality have a relationship with GEs directly, and that's not a bad thing. It's still, it's public discussions, it's appropriate relationship building, and quite often, if events have established themselves to being certainly a major attraction in terms of people, an economic driver within a community, arrangements can be made to have a pickup area within that particular event zone. And in particular, the New Ross Fair ran into a challenge the year before when they were to have garbage picked up, and it just didn't happen. And that was not GE's, I will say, it wasn't GE's. And so then moving on from there, other arrangements were made to make it a bit more seamless. So things can happen for the right reasons. So there are other avenues to find solutions as well. So, but I'm sticking with the fact that I don't think that nonprofits should be off of that list and only charitable. Thank you.
Seeing that, you're looking for some direction here, I think we need to see how everybody feels, the position they feel on this particular subject. Warden Weber.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of with Tina, because I mean, a lot of the people I know who use this program are not charitable organizations. They're just volunteer organizations that are doing things out in the community, even if it's a garbage pickup day. It's a non-organized anything. It's just they go out and gather up garbage off the streets and put it somewheres, and of course we come and get it for nothing. But I wonder if it'd be possible if Chad or somebody could put us together a list of who the frig's using it now, so that I know how many of them are not-for-profits and how many of them are charitable, so that we have some.
Are we talking about, I'm a little confused. Are we talking about just the tipping fees? So there's the tipping fee, which would be charged when the nonprofit group takes the waste to the landfill.
Yeah.
But we're mixing discussions a little bit, because now we're talking about special pickups, which we have to arrange with GEs.
I'm just talking about the tipping fee.
But you're talking about
That's
the
all
tipping
I'm
fee,
talking
taking
about.
waste out to
Yeah,
the
I mean, if they got to
landfill.
deal with GE, that's all fine.
Themselves.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, and so
Just the
I think
tipping
our
fee.
suggestion is any nonprofit would qualify for that tipping fee. Any nonprofit would qualify for
Well, they
that
do,
tipping fee.
they do
just 'cause
now, but
most of them are.
Andre's suggesting that they have to be a charity, and I'd just like to know how many of them
So are you-
are and aren't.
The discussion we started with, where I started, was we're suggesting that all the nonprofits be included, the tipping fees be waived for all of them, that be listed in the fee policy as an exemption.
Well, I'm fine with that.
But the fee policy does have an exemption for nonprofits for every other type of fee that we charge. And I think that's where we're talking about the charitable status, where the municipality can, so development permit fees, the road association
Oh,
fees,
that's got nothing
like
to do with
all of that.
garbage.
There's already a policy in there that says the municipality can waive fees for nonprofits, because we've had a request to waive building permit fees and.
But that's a
and so then
separate discussion
that's-
from garbage to me.
That's where I think it's either, you have to, if you're a charity, we waive those fees automatically, and otherwise the request comes to council, or does every request come to
We're
council?
only talking about tipping fees.
We're only,
And if you want to bring that up, then that's a whole different discussion than garbage to me.
yeah, so I think that's what we're trying to get clarity on, because we're bringing back the fee policy, and we want some clarity. We know that the word, where it says the municipality may, is that a council decision, is that every nonprofit? That's what we're trying to get some clarity around.
Councillor Church.
Thank you. I'll be clear, I think it should just be for the tipping fees to
That's
waive that.
Okay,
As far as development permits, anything else,
It's a whole
they'll
other
have to
matter.
come to council and request a exemption. All in favor of the tipping fees, and I think there's some nonprofit organizations that are now paying tipping fees. I'm just saying, I wouldn't want to mention any names, and I'd have to check it out, but I believe there are people bringing things that are actually paying a tipping fee. just.
And there is no exemption in there, like a across-the-board exemption in there right now.
only
The
ones
exemption that's in there right now is that the municipality may waive may waive
They ask.
fees that are contained in the fee policy. So that's why we've got direction from council to include nonprofits as tipping fee waiver, but we were just trying to get clarity around the other piece of
Well,
it.
if they
I think
don't
we
have-
are understanding where it's going.
Yeah, because it,
If they don't ask and they have, you know, let them pay, but I'm just saying, for people that are bringing
Just-
something from an event, they're going to obviously ask to have it waived. So I'm fine with that.
Tipping fees.
Tipping
Bring the other
fees only.
back for another
Yep.
discussion,
Yep.
it's a whole different ballgame.
yeah, okay.
Thank you, Councilor Vino, for that lively debate, bringing up that subject. Scott, continue.
Okay, so I think we've got, so next slide, I think. And then I think we've answered some of that, yeah, so I think we'll, and then I think the only other one was, did we want to weight bag limits similar to what we give regular residents for that? That was the only other thing I think that
I
we
think
didn't
got
capture in
that.
the
I
debate,
think,
but I think we have a general sense of where we're going with that, so. I think that's all for now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Love the debate. I think, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Start your day off the right one.
I started this by saying it was gonna be a short meeting.
Yeah, seems like it.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Fred Wynot for some winter clearing standards.
Sure, now that you're all warmed up. Yeah. This is just a follow-up from the discussion we had at the last policy and strategy session about winter standards. You know, a lot of them in our road contracts anyways, but we felt it should come back for a policy. And what I've done is I've just thrown a draft one together for further discussion and direction. The purpose is, of course, to establish a level of service for the municipality district of Chester and plans to deliver the winter clearing of roads and sidewalk under its responsibility for winter service. Right? The application is just for municipally-owned roads and their sidewalks. Our trails and pathways aren't part of this project right now. That's separate. And we really don't provide winter maintenance on our trails as is, right? Would there be any change, that'd be something future, right?
Fred, if I could just ask you, just about, I mean, maybe you'll get to it, but the sidewalk clearing, that's part of our contract with the provider, correct?
Yes, the contract renewals are going out this month for
So
bidding.
will those renewals, because we just paved Wild Rose Park, will that be part of the contract?
So,
The walkway, that's quite a walkway there.
yeah, that walkway was part of the last one. What we do, when we set it out, we say, here are our existing sidewalks.
Okay.
And what is your rate for adding sidewalks within this area?
Okay.
So that's how we picked up Wild Rose last year. Now,
Okay, perfect.
this year will be part of the one, it's this long. Should we have another one? What's the cost there? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Continue.
no problem. All right, so just some of the definitions, priority one roads. Again, we discussed 1,500 average annual daily traffic, and also ones that we have where there's facilities on it, right? Especially our own and schools. So under this, our only priority one roads would be the ones at Kaiser Meadows and Parkwood Drive because there's a school on it. The rest would be priority two. And discuss a finished condition lane width, cut through. What the cut through is, you know, when you get that first plow and you get a row of snow on each side, if you go through and you're a priority one road and there's a priority two off it, like Foxwood would be, well, the contractor has to cut that out as well, right, until they can get around to the every 3 hours, right, and they pick that up. And then it discusses sidewalks and the municipal engineer, because a lot of the stuff is in the MGA. And I think I may missed something here. Yeah. Right. Okay, and Yeah, duty of care. Okay, for salting, there's a list there of the salting. It says when they start for the priority 1, priority 2 roads. And I did notice under number 10, it should be within 24 hours instead of 20 hours. That's something small right now. And you go over to snow storage. And that's for the roads, it's basically the snow is stored within the right of way, right? The priority is the cleaning off the traveled surface, a minimum of 3 meters for each lane, and then push back as we have time, and clear to 24 hours, right? And the big thing for intersections is not to have it above 4 feet, because then people can't see, so you have to cut that back 6 meters. Same with their sidewalks, items like that. Should other areas become a problem with winging back and that, well, then we look at bringing people in to remove the snow as necessary, right? And same as under sidewalks as well. There'll be salt, there'll be sand in there. We try to keep in the road right away, but we try to be as diligent as possible. The sidewalks are sloped toward the road. But if there's any push on private property, I feel we're not responsible for that if we're acting due care. And some other areas that I did put in was under due diligence and resident and property owners, as a duty of care that if you see a problem, let us know. Or there's something you can adjust by yourself, just by the way you plow your own driveway, well, then do so, right? We do our best, especially with the sidewalks. The contractor can just go through, do a lovely job, something comes off a roof, or there's rain leaders that put water on the sidewalk. The province comes along and plows everything back in. Like, we're hoping to correct that with our own machine this year, but, just let us know we're doing what we can, right? Yeah, just trying to limit our liability, but still, do what's right. Yeah. And the options, like, right now, we contract everything out. We do, so there's gonna be options, whether we do it in the future, whether contractors do it in the future, or a combination. And we also have the option there, the province doing it as well. Right now, the province will only do it if they own the roads on either end. That's why we contract out Millennium Drive.
Excuse me, Fred.
Yeah,
Councillor Bremer.
sure.
Thank you, Deputy Warden Asif, through you to Fred. These two topics you're talking about exclusively right now, the removal of the snow and the sidewalks, that
Yeah.
this was last year's topic for, at least in the village of Chester, was that it would melt and then it would snow and then it would freeze, and the guy had just gone through and it stayed and it built up and it built up and it built up.
Yeah.
And you've addressed that with the potential new
We're
equipment we
hoping
have this
to,
year.
yeah.
I believe we're gonna get some communications on that from another group in the village that were meeting last night that brought this topic up. They also said in past history, which I unfortunately didn't experience here, that some of the snow was removed in the plow to the walkway area when the snow was pushed in, and then the walkway, it got built up more and more, and they would remove that. Now, I have not witnessed that myself, but they were interested if that could be maintained or brought back again, particularly in the village core.
Yeah, we'd have to look at whether we can maintain that 1.8 width. If we can't, then we'd have to look at coming in and doing that, right?
So those are the answers that we will, pre-warn you that we will get those questions put to us in the correspondence, so.
And this is only applying to the municipal roads
That's right.
and the sidewalks, right?
Correct. So
The question I had, Fred, is it clear in here how we treat the sidewalks and the municipal roads in the village? And are they treated different than outside because of the sanding and the salting?
Treating the same, I would,
We're
unless
treating them,
it's,
so it's salt,
Same.
this treats it with salt?
Yep.
Or- So I guess that's the question for council is, do we want the sidewalks in the village treated with salt or with sand, right?
correct, thanks for bringing that up. It's in here, but unless it's minus 10 or lower, I'd go with sand. Salt, rather. Yeah, and that's what we're planning, salt for the sidewalks and roads. When it's below that, we had to bring in this sand. And with sand anyways, to avoid clumping, sometimes you put salt in anyways to avoid that, so environmentally, it's not a lot of difference when it comes to that, but sand is really just when it's minus 10 or below, my opinion. Yeah, so there's our shot at
Excuse
this,
me,
right?
Fred, sorry.
Yeah, right.
Councillor Connors.
Thank you. So just for clarity, all sidewalks in the entire municipality. Standard of care, the same, which is great.
Correct.
Except, well, no, yeah, so end of sentence. And if it's below a certain temperature, we use sand and not salt
Correct.
throughout the municipality.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
cool.
what I'm proposing, yeah.
Perfect, that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and again, like in New Ross, we'll have the contract out for that area and for what's existing. And then when the other two phases come on, they'll
Oh, yeah.
probably within the life of that contract, and they'll price
Oh, yeah.
that, so,
No,
yeah.
cool, perfect, thanks.
Sam?
Yeah, before we actually adopt the policy, I'd like to just wade in a bit on the language that we're gonna use.
Oh, absolutely, it's just a draft right
Yeah,
now,
I
it's a team
realize
effort,
that, yeah, because we have to be careful what we adopt, because we could be held to that at some
Mm-hmm.
future point. If something bad happens, you know what I mean? So we
Yeah.
want to make sure we're setting ourselves up to a standard. that
Oh,
we-
absolutely.
that we can't
It'll be in
meet.
our contracts at who's responsible. We're just there to make sure and enforce, and
I
we're
know.
hoping to do a little extra there, but yeah.
But you know what happens, if something bad happens, that's what's gonna be held.
That's
So,
right,
That's all,
yeah.
yeah.
We have our staff language expert, and through him and you, we'll be doing all right. All right, so that comes back to those three options. To proceed for the next kind of go-around with this, is there some other things you may wish to add before we bring back an actual first draft? Or is it, we're not interested, basically?
We need policy of some sort.
Yeah. Right.
Option one.
Anybody? Counselor Bremner?
Thank you, Deputy Warden Ace. I'll go with option one with the understanding of the flexible things that we've talked about here today.
Yeah.
As that being the concerns from other years' experiences and learnings. So I'll move that.
We can't move.
Yeah, we're not moving.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just,
We're just looking for a consensus.
Yeah.
We all have-
yeah, and then I'll review it internally, and yeah. No,
Okay, are we good?
Yeah, we seem.
think so, all right,
Thanks, Fred.
all right.
That's it? That's it? So I guess if, we'll take a short break before the,
We're gonna adjourn.
yeah.
Done.
I just want to make sure it's okay with everybody that we adjourn, take a break till the audit committee meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Warden Weber, second by Councilor